Good morning. It's a delight to see everyone today. Welcome to the 2025 Better Buildings, Better Plants Summit. We are delighted you're here. My name is Maria Vargas, and I'm the director of the Better Buildings Initiative at DOE. And just a quick show of hands, how many people are here for the first time? Wow, this always amazes me every year. That's awesome. Well, we are grateful to have you here. You know, for more than a decade, through Better Buildings, DOE has worked with you, market leaders across the U.S. economy, to set ambitious goals and really share what's possible. We know the opportunity is huge. This country spends about $800 billion a year to run our buildings and our manufacturing facilities, and we know on average 20 to 30% of that energy is wasted. And so the opportunity that we all work on together to figure out ways to reduce that energy waste, to save money, to be more competitive, to improve the work we do as organizations is why we're all here today. You know, by optimizing our energy use, not only do we lower operational costs and improve productivity, but we free up resources to invest in innovation and become more competitive as American organizations. And it's your presence and your willingness to set ambitious goals and then to share them across the economy is what allows us as an initiative, but more importantly as a country, to move faster forward and be more competitive and resilient along the way. And the summit, our annual gathering, is our opportunity to bring all of this Better Buildings initiative, this Better Buildings family together. And we bring it together as problem solvers. You are all leaders, you're innovators, you are those in your organizations truly helping to chart the future path. And for that, we appreciate all the work we do. As a reminder, Better Buildings as an initiative works across the U.S. economy. We've got school districts here, we have commercial organizations, we have manufacturing facilities, we have state governments. And it's really that power of learning from each other and engaging with one another and sharing with one another that is the secret sauce and the superpower of the Better Buildings Initiative. So thank you very, very much for being here today. We have an exciting plenary. We're going to do a couple things here with you this morning. Shortly, we're going to be joined on stage by two DOE leaders, Lou Herkman and Caroline Snyder, and they're going to help recognize some of this year's goal achievers and other folks that have done some very innovative work across the economy. And before I introduce Caroline to come up on stage, I just have three things I want to share with you and ask of you. And the first is, if you will please make sure you download the app. This is the first year we're not doing a printed program. So if you will please download the app if you haven't already. It's important to do for a bunch of reasons. First of all, it tells you where to go. It tells you where the sessions that you're going to are. But it's also a way to get feedback from you, because this summit is for you. So we really appreciate the feedback that you give us about things that have worked this year, about sessions and topics you want to cover in coming years, what you liked, what you didn't like. So please make sure that you spend a little time with the app, not only to give us feedback, find out where you're supposed to go, but to connect with each other too. That's a great function and value of the app. Second is on your table, I'm looking at, yeah, so it's good I'm pointing this out because they're all a big lump on the middle of tables. So this is the spring progress report from the Better Buildings Initiative. We're going to talk a little bit about the organizations today. Many of them will be up on stage, but to learn more about the work they're doing, please, this is a take-home, so please take that home with you. And then most importantly, what I want to leave you with is the summit is about you. We have designed all of the sessions to be informational, interactive, and inspirational, right? So all the sessions are designed to be interactive. They are about you, about giving you all the platform to talk to, learn from, and engage with other organizations that are doing the kind of work either that you're doing or want to be doing. So please take advantage, dive in, talk to others, spend the time both at the reception this evening, but in the sessions that are being offered today and tomorrow to learn from like-minded professionals and leaders across the economy. Because it's really this opportunity to connect, collaborate, learn from each other, that we're going to create the lasting impact that we all want to do to really help our country move forward faster. So now it's my honor to introduce Caroline Snyder. Caroline is the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Buildings and Industry at the U.S. Department of Energy and has been a huge supporter of the program. So with that, Caroline, if you could join us on stage.
Thank you, Maria. Good morning, everyone. As Maria said, my name is Caroline Snyder. In my role as the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Buildings and Industry at DOE, I lead investments across 3 technology offices that catalyze innovation in the U.S. industrial base and our nation's buildings to make all Americans' lives better by reducing energy bills now and in the future, strengthening U.S. economic competitiveness, and increasing the security and the resilience of American materials and manufacturing, building infrastructure, and energy systems. And so it's an absolute pleasure to be with you today at our annual Better Buildings, Better Plants Summit. It's wonderful to see so many good friends in the room and to meet so many new leaders who've joined us from organizations across the country. I'm also excited to be joined today by our new leader at DOE, Lou Herkman. Despite the many demands on his time, as I'm sure you can all imagine, we're so grateful that you're spending so much of today with us. Thank you, Lou, for joining us. As Lou's presence demonstrates, over 4 different presidential administrations, the powerful partnership platform that we have all built together continues to be supported by new leadership and year over year grows in its impact across our country. More than 600 organizations from diverse sectors, from heavy industry to commercial real estate to school systems to so many more, have set portfolio-wide goals as part of Better Buildings and Better Plants. And many of you in this room will be recognized today for exceeding those ambitious goals. Our partners represent 28 of the top Fortune 100 companies, 22 of the top 50 U.S. employers. This is an extraordinary demonstration of the leadership and commitment that all of you represent for our country. So as Maria mentioned, what's special about Better Buildings that attracts those kinds of top organizations, employers, and leaders? And I believe it's our key focus on helping you, the leaders and the organizations, set and meet your own ambitious goals, energy, waste, emissions, water-saving goals, faster and more effectively than you could hope to do on your own. And you're not alone. Look around this room. You're part of a Better Buildings and Better Plants and Better Climate community. You're part of something bigger. A multi-sector partnership, a public-private collaboration, a solutions and results-centered crowdsourcing opportunity with more than 3,400 successful solutions and resources at your fingertips. We love our numbers at DOE. Each of you are on the front lines of accelerating innovations to solve some of your most persistent and challenging energy, waste, emissions, and water issues. And we help each other with hands-on opportunities for peer exchanges, working groups, and world-class technical assistance from our national labs, many of which are here with us today. And when we say partnership, we truly mean a two-way partnership. For Better Buildings partners are our secret ingredient to making us successful in our roles as federal public servants. We learn from you every day. You identify solutions that we can help others then replicate across other sectors, across other parts of our country. You find challenges that need to be addressed, and then we can prioritize our investments to help you address those critical gaps. From driving new technology R&D to busting market barriers, our investments are shaped by your needs and your insights. Some of you in this room have been working with us for more than a decade. And more than half of the people you see around the room today are currently partners in our program. Thank you. I want to thank each of you for what you have done to make this initiative a success. It's our flagship partnership program, and it's a success worth building on strength over strength year over year. And it's because of the leadership action from each of you in this room that can add up to larger returns than anyone could have imagined over 10 years ago. That cascading positive impact across our country. To date, our partners, all of you, have collectively achieved nearly $22 billion in energy savings, water waste reduction by 22 billion gallons, reducing energy waste by 3.6 quadrillion BTUs, and a reduction in emissions by 224 million metric tons. Those are remarkable achievements that all of you have done. And through your leadership, not only have you accomplished those impacts, but you have demonstrated what is possible when we combine leadership and American innovation with public support. These impacts do not happen without your visionary and effective leadership and your personal commitment. So I want to thank each of you for your individual commitment, your individual leadership, as well as the leadership across each of your organizations. That's why it's so important for us to recognize your leadership and showcase it for others, to shine a light on your efforts as you brave a path for others to follow. You set the bar for what is possible when it comes to meeting a substantial, audacious efficiency goal while still delivering quality services and products. So a huge congratulations and thank you for our goal achievers today and to those being recognized for their Better Project, Better Practices accomplishments. Your investment in your organizations and in this partnership is truly an investment in our nation's economy and the future of our country as an energy secure, resilient, and globally competitive nation. For some of you who raised your hands, this is your first summit. If you're new to Better Buildings or you're considering partnership, I encourage you, come talk to us this week. Look around, notice the variety of efforts and achievements that your peers are being recognized for today. Efforts that were bolstered by solutions shared by other partners that have been made available to one another through peer exchanges and a variety of other opportunities that Better Buildings facilitates. Please reach out to us. We want to see you on this stage soon, receiving recognition for busting through your own ambitious goals. Before I conclude my remarks, and before we transition into celebrating our goal achievers, I would like to take a moment to share some bittersweet news for us from DOE and to introduce an important new colleague. First, the news. After just shy of 40 years as a dedicated civil servant, Maria Vargas, our Better Buildings Initiative Director, has the audacious idea of retiring. Maria has built the Better Buildings Initiative into the strong partnership program that you see today. Her vision, her partner-first mentality is why she didn't even want me to talk about her today. And it's been our Better Buildings North Star from the very beginning. If you've been involved with this program in any way, then you've probably already met Maria. And you personally have experienced the fact that she is a sheer force of nature. I know many of us are so deeply grateful for how much we've learned from you and for how lucky we are to have you as a colleague and friend. We are so grateful for everything Maria has done and the tremendous contributions that she has created. She will be greatly missed by our Better Buildings family, but we know she'll enjoy spending time with her family in the mountains and undoubtedly will find a way in her retirement to continue to move mountains wherever she goes. So please join me in appreciating Maria. But in full alignment with our program's history of moving from strength to strength with detailed plans, and an ever steady drumbeat of growth and impact, I'm excited to announce that another familiar face will be stepping up to continue Maria's important work. Nate Allen. Nate, where are you? Ah, there he is. Nate Allen, currently a program manager in DOE's Building Technologies Office, will be taking the baton as director of the Better Buildings Initiative. Nate has worked side by side with Maria since 2017 on the program. He's worked closely with many of you across private and public sector work. If you don't already know Nate, he's tall, so you can find him in a big crowd. I encourage you to get to know Nate better over the next couple of days, and I'm sure you will get to know him deeply in the coming years if you don't already. So Nate, congratulations. With that, let's get back to all of you, our partners, and we want to celebrate our goal achievers today. To kick that off, I'm honored to get to introduce my boss, Lou Herkman, our Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary at EERI, which is a long way of saying he runs EERI, and the Department of Energy, and he will be recognizing our goal achievers today. Lou oversees the entire EERI multi-billion-dollar investment portfolio of research, development, validation, and efficient utilization of energy technologies. And he has a commitment to improving the affordability, reliability, resilience, and security of Americans' energy system. And Lou knows buildings and industry. He has more than 2 decades of experience in the energy industry, including leadership in both public and private sectors, from the Air Force to major building technology companies to Congress, and now coming back to us again at DOE. We're fortunate to have Lou as our fearless leader. And again, thank you so much, Lou, for joining us at the summit today. So it's my pleasure to welcome back Maria and to have Lou come join us for recognizing our goal achievers today. Thank you so much.
All right. So we are thrilled to be able to recognize some of our goal achievers this year. And I'm going to ask if you just hold your applause. It's so hard because, okay, but please try and hold your applause until we complete each category of recognition. I'll let you know where that is. So the first group we'd like to recognize is those partners who met their either Better Buildings, Better Plants Challenge, or Better Plants Program energy reduction goal. And the first one is Anne Arundel County Public Schools in Maryland. Anne Arundel is represented today by Zach Lammers, and they reduced their energy use by 30% across more than 14 million square feet, and they did that by implementing a combination of energy efficiency measures and capital improvement projects. Thanks. Wait, did you get a picture? Yeah. Okay, good. All right, you're good. Thanks, Zach. All right, next up is Carlisle. Carlisle is a franchisee of the Wendy's Company and represented today by Greg Lotz, Senior Vice President of Development and Asset Management. Carlisle reduced their energy use by more than 20% and achieved their goal by implementing leading cutting-edge technology equipment and preventative maintenance and practices. Congratulations, Carlisle. Okay. You guys aren't doing very good at holding your applause, but okay, that's all right. Next thing is Kamau. Kamau is represented by Yolanda Morales, who's the Environmental Health, Safety, and Energy Manager. They reduced their energy use by 16% and did that through energy efficiency efforts, including a comprehensive upgrade of the facility's lighting, and followed a continuous improvement process through their commitment to ISO 50001. All right, this is IAC Group. IAC is represented by Tom Boney. Tom Boney. Did I say it right? Okay, Tom Boney. Energy use reduced by 25% across 9 facilities, and they did that by streamlining operations, upgrading systems, and enhancing maintenance across all facilities. Congratulations, Tom. All right, next up is JSW. JSW Steel is represented by Nilesh Shalar. He's the Director of Environmental Utilities and Sustainability. JSW Steel reduced their energy use by 55% and achieved this through asset utilization, higher production, reduced idle time, and significant process improvements. Congratulations. Okay, next is LBA Realty, represented by Michelle German, Vice President of Portfolio Operations and Sustainability. LBA reduced their energy use by 2.7% over 10 years, and these energy savings were realized through data management and energy efficiency projects, including battery storage, LED retrofits, smart building programs, and equipment upgrades. All right, next is the Shockit Company, represented by Eileen Mason. Shockit reduced their energy use by more than 20% across almost 4 million square feet. They did that by implementing company-wide initiative focused on electric, gas, and water efficiency projects. Congratulations. Thanks, Eileen. All right. So, okay, now we can applaud. Those are the energy goal achievers. All right, next we'd like to recognize those organizations who partner with DOE in the Better Climate Challenge. These partners have achieved their emission reduction goals across their portfolios. First up is ABB. ABB is represented by Allison Bresloff, the Vice President for U.S. Country Head of Health, Safety, and Environment. They've reduced their emissions by 81% across 65 facilities. Their reductions came from reducing fugitive and process emissions, a reduction in energy use, and the purchase of renewable power. Congratulations. Thank you. Next up is Chemours. Chemours is represented by Amber Wellman, the Chief Sustainability Officer. Chemours reduced its emissions by almost 60% across 15 facilities. Their greatest reductions came from fluoro-organic emissions reductions, as well as a conversion to natural gas boilers at a facility in West Virginia. Congratulations, Amber. Next up is Chula Vista, California. Chula Vista is represented by Colleen Wisniewski, the Environmental Sustainability Manager. Chula Vista reduced their emissions by 64% by making investments in energy efficiency, high-efficiency vehicles, and they participate in a local community choice energy program. Congratulations. Next is Electrolux, represented by Tara Helms, the Director of Sustainability for North America. Electrolux reduced emissions by 87% across 3 facilities. They did that by constructing 2 high-efficiency facilities, purchasing renewable energy, and implementing a range of efficiency upgrades. Congratulations. All right, and next is Mitsubishi, represented by Kevin Webb. Mitsubishi reduced their emissions by 60%, and their greatest emission reductions came from a decrease in energy use and off-site renewable power. Congratulations to Mitsubishi. Next up is Nestle. Nestle has reduced emissions by more than 50% across 19 facilities, and they've achieved their goal by implementing several energy efficiency measures across their network and powering their facilities with renewable energy. Congratulations, Nestle. All right, the next is Trane. Trane is represented by David Ocam, Director of Environmental Programs. They've reduced emissions by 60% and did that through reducing fugitive and process emissions and purchasing of off-site renewable power. Congratulations. Okay, and Whirlpool. Whirlpool is represented today by Ramzi Eljami, Senior Director of Business Process and Manufacturing. Whirlpool reduced emissions by 68% across 10 facilities, and their largest emissions reductions were achieved through energy management program and 2 wind farm projects in East Texas, totaling 110 megawatts, secured through long-term virtual power purchase agreements. So now we can give all those folks a round of applause. All right, don't go on stage yet. Hang on, just sorry, we're going to confuse you a little bit. So yeah, this is the next slide we wanted to do. So in the Better Climate Challenge, and if you're not already working with us in the Better Climate Challenge, that's your goal, is to figure out how to do that by the end of these 2 days, because we'd love to have you. As organizations who work in the Better Climate Challenge know, they have reached a goal, but we continue working with you and your organization. And so this group that you see on the slide are really those organizations who have met the 50% goal and are continuing to work with us to hit other important milestones, 75%, and even greater emissions reductions. So can we just give all of them a round of applause? Terrific. Okay, the last two organizations that we're going to recognize today work with the Department of Energy as financial allies in the Better Buildings Initiative. When we first stood up the Better Buildings Initiative, we did so with the help of organizations willing to address the barrier that we kept hearing from the market about how do I pay for this, how do I finance this, how do I do this? And so we work with financial allies who've been a key part of our program in not only committing to resources, to make resources available and funding available to organizations looking to do this work, but to help really drive new and innovative financial tools to help organizations who are interested in doing this. So we have two of our financial allies with us today, and the first is Nuveen Green Capital, represented by Mike Doughty, Senior Director of Originations. They have financed almost $2 billion for energy efficiency and renewable energy projects, and they fund 100% of the hard and soft costs of commercial building upgrades and new construction that improve energy, water, and resilience performance through a CPACE public-private financing program. And then we have PACE Equity, represented today by Christian Delisle, who's the managing director. PACE Equity financed over $500 million for energy efficiency and renewable energy projects, and they fund CPACE projects across the U.S. and have a financial product with a lower cost of capital for developments or renovations that build on with lower emissions design. So now can we give those folks a round of applause? And now I can relieve you of your duties. Thank you, Lou and Carolyn. We appreciate you being here. A couple other quick slides before I turn it over to today's big event, which is hearing from other partners. But I do want to recognize a couple folks. I want to recognize a couple of the goal achievers that weren't able to be with us today, so you can see lots of other organizations across the economy who have also hit their goals. I always think it's weird to applaud for people that aren't in the room, but we'll applaud them anyway, so congratulations. The other two organizations that I want to single out, when in Better Buildings we work with organizations, as Caroline mentioned, through energy goals you can set. We are now working with organizations who want to set water and waste goals with us as well, in addition to emission reduction goals. And so these two organizations, Ford and TNDC, have met their goals as part of the water savings network that we have. So I don't know if we have folks in the room from Ford or TNDC, but let's give them a round of applause. So thank you. Okay, a couple other quick slides. On the table, as I mentioned to you before, we have a little bit more information on each of these organizations. But because the goals we ask you to set through the Better Buildings Challenge or the Better Plans Program or the Better Plans Challenge are long-term goals, because you are trying to make change happen across your portfolios, and that takes time. A couple years ago, we started something we call the Better Project and Better Practice Awards, which are ways that you can share the work that you're doing and the success that you're having at individual facilities. And so I just wanted, these are all listed in the program on your table, but I just want to quickly just share some slides. For the first one are organizations who have done some amazing work at individual facilities in the commercial sector. So this year's Better Project Awards, and again, there's more detail in the flyer on the stage. And then the next slide is showing the same work but done across our industrial and manufacturing sector in the United States. These are organizations who've done some really cool, how's that for a very sophisticated term, but a very cool work that they're doing in their facilities. And then the next set of awards are really focused on because the way to achieve these goals sure is through technology and really driving projects in your facilities. And a lot of times that happens through changing the way we run our facilities. So better practices. What are better ways to accomplish what we want to accomplish? So the next set of recognition are the Better Practice Awards. So the first are in the commercial sector, and then the second slide is in the industrial sector as well. And then a couple other, we also want to sort of highlight some of the innovative work being done, and so we have a financial innovation recognition, how we can recognize some of the really innovative work being done in the financial sector to help organizations pay for, underwrite, and actually get these projects done where they might not have the capital in-house to do that. So some exciting work happening through the financiers. Okay, and then the last set of slides are really just hopefully you're going to see your name up there. As I mentioned, the goals that you set as organizations are long-term goals. And so we just want to give a shout out to those of you who are on track. These are organizations we're working with you. These are organizations who are on track to meet their goals. And we are delighted to be partnering with you and truly partner with you so that you're able to, in some cases, meet a second goal. Some organizations work with us and they've met a goal and they come back and set a second goal with us. So partners on track, we're going to run through a couple of those slides. And then I also want to just welcome some of the new partners. Since the last time we met at the summit, more than 60 organizations have joined in one of the partnership programs with us, and we are delighted to have you. And one of your jobs going home is to help us make that number even higher next year, so we would appreciate that. Okay, I think that's it. So can we just give a round of applause for all of you and the work that you're doing? That's awesome. Okay, so what has Maria said 3 times today? This summit is about you. And so that this next panel is, because this summit is about you, we ask a panel of partners to come be on stage so that you can hear from partners across the U.S. economy and across the sectors that we work with in the Better Buildings Initiative. We've asked these partners to come to stage not only to talk a little bit about what their organization is doing, but the things they're seeing in the sectors of the economy that they represent, whether that's in the industrial space, whether that's in data centers, or in the retail space of the U.S. economy. And what's nice about the partner panel is that they do represent very different parts of the U.S. economy, very different kinds of buildings, and very different parts of the country geographically, and that's why it's so nice to have a diverse panel of partners be able to speak to you today. But the one thing these partners do have in common is they have been willing to work with us on, because we like to do things differently and fun, and so one of the things that we did a couple years ago was create a roadshow series, because it's important, a key part of the Better Buildings Initiative is the solutions. What are partners doing that they can share? Well, we can learn that by emails and case studies and playbooks, but another way to see that is by getting on the road and going out and seeing these partners firsthand and seeing the work that they've done firsthand. And so all these partners have, thank you to all of you for being willing to let us literally drive to your facility and take videos and learn from you hands-on to see the work you're doing in the hopes that it will help inform, inspire, and accelerate the work others are doing. We're asking Michael Furs, who is the Director for the Building Technologies Office at DOE, to be your moderator today. Come on up, Michael. And I'll just spoil Michael's secret a little bit. We're going to do something interesting and fun and different. We have a fun way of introducing today's speakers, and I'll let Michael take it from here. Thank you. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Maria. And the first person to join us up here on stage is Jacqueline Misspagel from Centersquare. Come on down.
Data centers are really energy intensive. I mean, literally power hogs. So we worked really hard to make them more efficient, but at the same time, we can't sacrifice that reliability and uptime. It's critical to actually get the cooling to just the components in the gear where we want the cooling. So by using containment in the cold aisle and the hot aisle, we're actually keeping all these peripherals and the input minimized. Instead of cooling the entire room, we only need to cool as small a space to that gear as we possibly can.
What kind of savings do you guys see with the hot hour?
We're seeing 7 to 10% just from containment in combination with perforated tiles that we're actually using.
We did an energy audit at one of our sites, found opportunities for optimizations with our chillers. Finding scalable solutions is sort of step one into developing that emissions reduction plan.
Next up, we have Amber Wellman from Chemours. Come on down.
With a partnership to have this combustion turbine unit with the heat recovery system use natural gas to provide us steam.
We're looking at changing the impeller design that will actually put a lift on the bearings of the motor, and that way we can go from 9,000 gallons a minute to 12,000 gallons a minute, cut out at least 1, maybe 2 river water pumps. Being able to get 3,000 gallons more out of a river water pump and being able to shut one down is the biggest thing.
We have some automatic controls for like our fuel to air ratios are automatically controlled to minimize any excess energy that has to go into our process.
next we have Marty Dietz from IKEA.
So this is our tornado storage system. It can hold up to 1,700 products vertically, therefore reducing our footprint in the store and reducing how much energy we're consuming in heating and cooling.
Across the entire United States, we've got about 213,000 solar panels, and they generate around 53 megawatts of electricity.
We recently joined the Commercial Building Heat Pump Accelerator program. We're really excited about this work. We get to work with the department and other large businesses looking to roll out these new units on their buildings to actually reduce their carbon footprint in the built environment. We're really excited because this is a combo of both fast chargers for the public that we partnered with Electrify America on, but also private chargers for our fleets. We have really ambitious goals to provide 100% home deliveries by zero-emission vehicles, so this will really help us scale that up. So we're excited to see the future with this new model.
And lastly, we have Stacy Mahler from Siemens Smart Infrastructure.
So we are looking at our electrified powder coating line. So the old system, right, ran at about an hour and 40 minutes, and this system runs just north of an hour.
So increased productivity then must hopefully mean a return on investment.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the main talking points and one of the important initiatives when selling business cases like this, right? You want to electrify, you want to reduce your carbon emission, but you also want to find ways to improve the process. And I think we did a good job of merging two very key aspects and two key initiatives for our business under one project. So we did this project to reduce emissions. So we actually reduced the carbon emission in this facility by 90 to 95%.
Thank you all for being here. Now, I've asked each panelist to speak for a few minutes and let us know what they're doing, what they are seeing, and what is next. I've got a few questions after that, but as you've heard before, you all in the audience, the partners, are the stars of the show. So your questions can be flown up here to this panel via the app. So hopefully everybody has had a chance to download that. I'm going to say goodbye to this part of the audience and join our panelists here. And we'll kick it off. Jacqueline.
Sure. Well, I've been asked to speak just a little bit about Centersquare data centers. If you haven't heard of us, we are a company that's been around for a while, but we rebranded last year, so Centersquare is our new name. We have 73 data center facilities across 26 markets, primarily in the US. We operate 52 of those data centers ourselves. We have a lot of power. If you didn't know what data centers do, that's probably the number one question I get after I introduce myself is, what's a data center? We house IT equipment in our facilities. If you think about, the cloud, that's what I always tell my kids. I'm like, the thing that you're doing on your phone, the thing you're doing on your computer, buying, selling, all of that is going back to a server somewhere that is likely housed in a data center. And so we are a retail co-location provider, which means that we support many different, we have over 2,500 customers across our footprint, so we're housing their IT infrastructure in our facilities. As far as what's going on with us now, we're seeing a lot of demand and power from a little thing that you guys may have heard of called AI, or artificial intelligence. The workload for AI is built on a chipset called GPU, or graphical processing units, which use more power than a traditional CPU. So we're seeing an increase for demand, we're seeing an increase in density. And so what our services do is we supply the power for those workloads, those servers, that compute power. And in addition to supplying the power, we also control the temperature for all of those servers. So if any of you have ever worked late at night, laying in bed with the laptop on your lap, and then all of a sudden it gets hot and the fan comes on, just multiply that by thousands of servers in a facility, and you can imagine how warm it gets in there. So cooling is also really important for us as well. So some of the things that we're doing from a sustainability aspect is, an example would be a project that we did in our Mesa, and we're piloting this in several other locations as well, is a chiller and economizer optimization project. That allows us to go in and really optimize, repair those economizers that we have in the facility. And in one example, or in these examples of this pilot project, we're seeing around a 14% energy savings just by doing that really easy, low-cost efficiency effort. That doesn't sound like a lot, but really that equates to around 7 million kilowatt hours a year. So it does have a very big impact on our business, and it's something that we can apply across our entire portfolio. From a water perspective, the facility that you saw in the video when I came up there, an example that we're doing from water conservation is at that facility. It's in Dallas. So we replaced the landscaping outside the facility with native plants to Dallas that required no watering whatsoever. So that in itself saved around 2 million gallons of water a year. We also used I can't talk today, I'm nervous. Ultrasonic humidification on the data center floor, which saved us another $1 million gallons of water a year. So that combined, that's 3 million just at that one facility. Again, you apply that across 50 different data centers and you really have a big impact. So that's a little bit about Centersquare and what we're doing.
Yeah, thanks so much. Amber?
Sure. So you might have had a little bit of a sneak peek at what kind of company Chemours is in the video, which I think is a pretty cool walk-up. But we're proud to say that we're a chemistry company. We've been around for almost a decade now. In 2 months, we'll have our 10-year anniversary as an independent company. And you probably don't know the products that we sell, but I would wager a bet that you all use the technologies that we enable. So our businesses supply everything from materials that go into smart devices that, we probably all have in our pockets or out at the table, to the manufacturing of semiconductors that, support high-performance computing that Jacqueline was talking about, artificial intelligence. We manufacture refrigerants. So again, data center cooling is something that we care a lot about and keeping an eye on, but also cooling low GWP refrigerants for your automobile or your residential air conditioner or heat pump. And we supply pigments that go into high-performance industrial coatings, residential paints. So, our chemistries, we believe, enable all of our lives and things that we use and rely on every day. But we also think that, as proud as we are of our products, we also think that purpose is an important part of bringing business value. So I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer for Chemours, and my team is accountable for meeting our enterprise sustainability goals. We set those bold, ambitious goals back in 2018, and we were recognized today as going a long way in making progress towards achieving those goals. So we're especially proud of globally, we've made a 52% reduction since 2018 in our Scope 1 and 2 greenhouse gas emissions. That's pretty significant across a manufacturing footprint of over 30 manufacturing facilities and labs across the globe. And specifically to the US, 14 facilities contributed to a 58% reduction in Scope 1 and 2 emissions. So, super proud of those kind of accomplishments and progress. It's not just about the goals, it's about the work that we do to achieve them and how we do that. So I have a couple of my colleagues here today that help with the roadmaps and keeping process innovation in front of us. What do we need to do next? But it's really the boots on the ground at our manufacturing facilities that deliver that kind of improvement. So, engaging and enabling teams at sites in Tennessee, and yes, I do have the Tennessee accent, but I'm not from the facility in New Johnsonville. But Tennessee, North Carolina, Texas, New Jersey, across the US, we have engineers that are really driving progress, bringing ideas, helping us move forward. And we're super excited about the fact that we believe we're raising the bar on responsible manufacturing. But I think one thing about all of us on this panel, and we talked a little bit before, is partnerships is so key. So events like this enable us to drive the next improvements and scale some of the ideas like Jacqueline was talking about, because whether you're in the chemical sector or whether you're in a consumer-facing business, we all have to work together to make sure that we're committed to reductions that make sense and drive business value. So happy to be here today.
Thanks, Amber. Martin?
Hi, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for having us here, Maria. Thank you for your leadership. Yeah?
Oh, I hear it.
Maybe pull it up, yeah.
Can you hear me now? That's not sustainable. Can you hear me now? Okay. So thank you for having me here. Maria, thank you for your guidance on all these years for Better Business. It's been a pleasure to work with you all these years. So I'm Marty Dietz. I'm the U.S. Sustainability Manager for IKEA in the United States. I don't think I need an introduction about IKEA. I believe everybody in the room knows who we are and what we do. But what I will bring is some trivia about IKEA. So IKEA came to the United States in around 1988, opened its first store just outside Philadelphia in a small town called Plymouth Meeting. They later moved that store to Conshohocken, Pennsylvania, where the U.S. headquarters is now located. That is where I reside, along with some of my colleagues in the room. So along with that, the IKEA has established the IKEA Foundation, and 15% of our profits go to that foundation. The foundation focuses on people and climate and the communities that are most hit by climate change and the devastation that happens with that. IKEA has 52 stores in the United States, and I wrote them down. IKEA is an acronym. Because it's a Swedish acronym, I'm not going to try. I'll let you know that. But it is an acronym for a Swedish gentleman. That said, again, we're a proud partner of the Better Buildings suite of services, and the sustainability goals that IKEA has are centered around community, healthy living, circularity, climate, and nature. So with our climate goals, what our ambitions and goals are around is reducing our scopes 1, 2, 3 absolute emissions by 50% by 2030 and net zero by 2050. With our operational climate goals, what we'd like to do is reduce 85% by 2030. And the ways that we're doing that is looking at energy efficiency projects and how we can look at our existing buildings and do retrofits or put in updated technologies that might include things like AI. In new builds, we're looking at low to no embodied carbon, looking at LCAs and how can we do that in new builds, and using all of the new technologies that are around for building new buildings and keeping those costs down and also lowering the emissions for the building. We also are installing EVs that you saw in the video. One of our ambitions is to help support people to move to low emissions transportation. So at all of our units, you'll find public-facing EVs, as well as we have zero emissions deliveries that we're striving to do. So we have fleet chargers, EV fleet chargers at many of our units. We are partners with the DOE, and through that partnership, we've gained access to tools that can help us track our building emissions, our building energy use, see how our suite of buildings is performing with other buildings of its type, and how we can work with those partners to see how they're doing and how we can emulate Steel with Pride and see how they're doing the emissions reductions. Much like you said, we're all partners in this, so we use each other to rise up. We use the roadshow to really highlight, and using that really unique way to showcase all of the projects that we're working on across our buildings. And it was a great opportunity for us to get a store involved and to show a really microscopic way about all of the things that we're doing around solar, around energy efficiency, and around fuel switching, moving from natural gas to electricity. So there's a host of things we're working on, and I look forward to the questions that you'll all ask us.
Thanks, Marty. Stacy?
Going last, no pressure, right? So I'm with Siemens, which is a over 175-year-old company. And so what's our core tenet? Innovation. So within the US, we have 24 manufacturing facilities, we have 45,000 employees, and we have 12,000 suppliers just in the US. And that supplier piece becomes very important. It's not a stat you usually hear, but when we talk about the ecosystem, and the importance of collaboration, ecosystem, sharing of best practices, that becomes a really core part of what we're focused on. Within the US specifically, we are really driving innovation around industry, around infrastructure, and around transportation. And it's a really interesting time. And I think you've got a really interesting panel of speakers that can speak to all of this, but the data center, the AI, the boom of AI, and the power challenges that are coming along with that, along with industry growth. These are all good problems to have, but they present challenges in how do you manage the intersection of this growth with productivity, with reliability of operations and output. So within Siemens, specific to our climate goals, we have a net zero 2030 goal with a 20% reduction in our supply chain emissions. And that felt really far away when I started in this role 3 years ago. Heading into 2025, it feels really close. But that's, again, why these types of forums are so important. So interesting perspective that we have these net zero goals where we're working to implement. Energy efficiency is core, right? Electrification projects become really important there. Integration of clean energy technologies. But behind all of that, when we talk about how do you kind of move the needle forward, we're also supporting the rest of the industry. So the products that we make, the technology that we supply, is out there in industry helping other companies do the same thing. So we have this really interesting perspective where with this really close target, we're able to do some things within our operations and then go out and talk about it and pave the way and say, it's not so hard, you guys can do it too. It's not, it is hard. Some of the things that, happy to share, but across our fleet of buildings, manufacturing, as well as our office footprint and our fleet footprint, really excited to talk about how we're managing a large scope of transition. Again, how do you maintain reliability? How do you improve efficiency? How do you improve operational cost in service of goals that you have? Also excited to talk about the role that digitalization has to play. And behind everything that we're seeing around improving efficiency, improving the reliability of operations, the innovation around digital and the capability of understanding, having transparency to your operations, we're finding is one of the biggest areas of opportunity. Move from the Excel spreadsheet to real-time knowledge of how your operations are running and being able to match demand with supply. So I think, again, these forums are absolutely fantastic. I'm happy to talk about what we're doing because, again, we're the drink your own champagne company, as we like to say. And so happy to share what we're doing in hopes that it will help scale and accelerate efficiency, reliability, and overall sustainability across the industry.
Thanks, Stacy. In the spirit of drinking your own champagne, I'd like
there are some more colorful acronyms or euphemisms for that, by the way. I like the champagne one.
Thanks for that image.
Yeah.
I'd like for you to lean into swagger a little bit and talk a little bit about the accomplishments that you're most proud of. Do you mind starting, Jacqueline?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I'm very proud of the chiller and economizer optimization projects that are being led by Andrea on our team. They've really made a huge impact. I think for a data center, right, where our goal is 100% uptime, right? We got to keep these things on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And so we have to balance that with, what can we do? It's not like we can just rip out and start refurbishing, we're replacing everything. So being able to look at what we have, being able to optimize it as much as possible is just a quick way to have an immediate impact. Another one of the things that we're doing that I'm really proud of is with, of course, the new technology around AI, cooling has been a topic a hot topic in our industry, and how we're going to cool, some of these high performance workloads and the density that's coming down. So air cooling is becoming a challenge, but it's not obsolete yet. We are doing a lot of things with air cooling, as you saw in the video. We have not. We've stopped using, just perforated grates, but actually these heavy metal grates that direct airflow more efficiently over the IT equipment. And so it really is, just cooling what it needs to cool. I think about when I started in the data center industry, 10, 12 years ago, when you go visit the data center, you'd bundle up because it was like a meat locker in there, right? You'd have to put a coat on because they were keeping the entire ambient temperature so low for the IT equipment. Now, our technicians just wear regular polo shirts every day. It's very comfortable in the data center, and it's because we're directing that airflow appropriately. So we've done a lot of things with the floor tiles, optimizing the temperature settings, in the facility to look for hot air and cold air. We're doing containment methodologies, and so there's a lot of stuff that we're doing with air-cooled. We also have a lab that we do have some liquid cool technologies in there, and looking at, immersion and direct-to-chip. But those are things that we support today, and I think those are the things we've been able to flex with the changes in the industry and still utilize some of the mechanical and infrastructure that we have in place today in our centers.
Great. Yeah, thanks for sharing some of those big moves. Amber, what are you most proud of?
Sure. So I'll give a couple of examples, one footprint, one handprint. So again, we've made significant reductions in our scope 1 and 2 emissions. Super excited and honored to be a Goal Achiever Award winner. But how did we do that? Energy efficiency was certainly part of that, and those programs make total sense, right? We're reducing our consumption of energy, we're reducing our cost. But the most significant reductions across our manufacturing side have been from process emissions. So, that is, to Stacy's point, not easy. And we've used our innovative spirit to figure out how do we reduce process emissions at a site-by-site basis. We have, at one of our facilities in North Carolina, invested millions of dollars in oxidation, thermal oxidation for destruction of high global warming potential materials, emissions to the air. And that was certainly not an outside the box, just out of the box investment. It sits on a plot of land that's about the size of 2 U.S. football fields and is, multiple stories high, 8 stories high. So it's a feat of engineering. And so that just speaks to the innovative spirit that goes into sustainability, not just products, but in meeting sustainable goals. So that's on the footprint. The reductions that we're making there are significant across our manufacturing facilities. But then I'll switch to the handprint. What are our products doing for the world? And I'm especially proud of how we've integrated one of our goals, which is to have at least half of our revenue come from products that make a specific contribution to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So we kind of use that as a blueprint to say, are we making the world better? Are we helping people live better lives? And so, we've made significant progress in steering our portfolio, everything from those cooling options for better efficiency, lower energy consumption, to even something that doesn't seem that sexy, but paints that are better covering and lower your consumption on a unit basis for furniture, like laminates that IKEA might purchase, right? Those are the kind of things that we want to bring products that meet our customers' needs for their product portfolio. But how we do that is also really important. So embedding in the practices for new product development, we have a process where my team is embedded and asking questions with how do we design with the end in mind kind of things. We're excited about innovation in reducing our process emissions. We're excited about innovation in our product portfolio, but the how we do that in a much more integrated way, and so that sustainability is not a bolt-on, but it's really built into our company. I'm really excited about that. And my colleague Jessica Blint will talk more about that in a session at 4 o'clock today, so a plug for attending that one.
Great. Marty?
Sure. So in terms of being proud, I would be remiss if I didn't call out that what we saw in the video today was not, it was not me. I had nothing to do with that. But what I will call out is some key players today here that I'm very proud to work with, Sarah Jane Puya and Doug, who had his voiceover debut today. This work wouldn't be done without the people that I work with, so I'm really proud to call my colleagues, coworkers, because they're the ones, the gears in the engine that are making all of this happen. The accomplishments that we do have that we've worked on together and in silos are around, there's 3 things I want to mention. One is the EVs that you saw there. EVs look like, oh, just put it in the ground and let's go. There is so much work that goes into getting EVs installed, and our ambition is to have level 2 and 3 chargers at all of our sites. And it's been years in the making to get it done through contracting and getting asset, getting real estate, getting construction, and then the permits. There are so many levers to pull to get those chargers in the ground that you see. I'm so proud of the team that's doing that and has not given up even when the permit's not coming through or the construction didn't look like it was supposed to on the plan. But there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that went into those EV chargers. So really proud of those and that accomplishment. The other is something you'll hear more about later, which is our renewable heating and cooling projects, where we're moving toward off of fossil fuels onto electrification to cool and heat our buildings. We're really focused on the cool weather climate buildings to see how can we maximize the heat pumps there. So getting more data and more insight about how we can really get better at heat pumps in cool temperatures. And then the third is about the sustainability in the product. All the products that you see in IKEA, one of the design principles that IKEA uses in that is sustainability. So before the product is even a prototype, they're thinking about how do we think about end of life in this product? What components are we putting in here? Even though you may think, as you're putting those things together, that no thought was put into those instructions, a whole lot of thought went into it. So there is that really thoughtful design, what you see and when you pick it up, and then thinking about the next life of it as our circular principles, and what when you're done loving it, where does it go, and how can we keep that out of the landfill to help keep emissions out of, to decrease emissions in our landfills. So there are thoughts in our product about what the life cycle is and how we can help people live healthier lives.
Thank you.
Well, in the theme of addressing what you all saw in the video, so very, very proud of the work that our facility at Grand Prairie has done, first and foremost in just taking a comprehensive approach on everything from how do they improve the efficiency of the facility, which, by the way, manufactures key equipment for the data center industry, for large industrial. So again, we're really coming full circle in we've got to manufacture efficiently for industries that have high demand and are also trying to be efficient. In addition to the efficiency measures, lighting retrofits, lighting controls, kind of your basics just to improve the efficiency of the building, electrification of the HVAC. The big project, the big nugget was this paint line electrification. So you had a process that was due to be replaced, has a 20+ year asset life, so you really have to think about what you're doing when you go to modernize and replace something. This team really came together and they thought long-term. And not just for their own facility, but we have paint lines at multiple facilities across the world. So what's the opportunity across our entire footprint? And so this one team in Grand Prairie, Texas, took on a much bigger challenge than just a capital equipment replacement. Really proud of the work that they did, not only on the equipment itself and to transition that or do that modernization while keeping the line up and running. Significant backlog, again, increase in electrification, AI, this factory could not go down. So there's this resilience and operational reliability that had to happen. They also had innovation around the materials. So when you switch to a different process, what do you need in terms of your powder materials? What are you looking at in terms of opportunities to optimize the process while you're changing out this big piece of equipment? So they really took a holistic view now and in the future, and thought big. And really proud of the results, not only in having this really nice headline of, one of the nation's first electric paint lines, but just in the implications of what that means in the future. I'll also, just in the spirit of innovation, very proud of some work, not on the big capital project side, but on the innovation in the digital space. So some work by our Siemens Financial Services group launched the Digital Business Optimizer. This is a free tool, so democratization of information that uses publicly available information coming from many of the national labs from the DOE, and makes information available to companies on what is their carbon footprint, what's their expected electrical usage, how can they look at improving their efficiency and resilience through scenario planning of capital equipment investment and replacement. So it allows them to get a baseline, do some scenario planning, and then, as was mentioned earlier, one of the biggest hurdles is around the financing. So what does that financing roadmap look like? And it's, this is using all, publicly available data. In some cases, they can enter their own data. So it doesn't get them all the way there. But when we talk about those 12,000 suppliers that we have, that in a lot of cases don't have the financial or even people resources to go and do all this work. Very, very proud of our efforts to, again, think big, think long-term, and think of how do we scale the work that we're doing so that others can benefit from it.
Thanks. One of my favorite parts of events like this is being able to hear the problems that other people are working on so that when there's alignment, I can go ask questions and test my bad ideas off of their great thinking. And so I'm curious, you've alluded to some of this, but how would you describe some of the biggest challenges you're facing now? And then if you can bring up the crystal ball, what are challenges that you see coming in the future?
Yeah, I think, for us, probably a little bit more of what I've already talked about, right, is, the technology is driving a lot of demand right now in our industry. We're busier than ever, which is a great thing, but it has provided us opportunities for innovation and looking at things a little differently. So, we are, at our company in particular, we're very fortunate that we have enough power to meet our demand. So power generation isn't necessarily a challenge for us. Where we're seeing challenges in the ability to cool it. And so, like I said earlier in the previous question, I think we've successfully met the opportunities that have come to us with the different clients. We're putting in some of the largest footprints that we've ever put in these data centers. We used to hover around 100 kilowatt to 200 kilowatt deployments, and now we're talking about 1 megawatt, 2 megawatt, 5 megawatt deployments, and we've been able to very easily bring those into the facility. We are still air cooling a vast majority of those with some of those technologies that I mentioned before, as far as using containment, using heat exchangers, using those floor tiles, using technology that lets us know where there's hot spots and cool spots in the data center and adjusting temperatures accordingly. And then, still having an eye for, liquid cooling because we do see that is where technology is probably going to lead us as the densities continue to grow. So, that is the challenge. I think it was you, Amber, that says the challenge is, spurs the innovation, and that's exactly what we're doing. And it's hard being the first person to answer the question, because as they answer, I'm like, oh yeah, I wanted to say that too. So I will say it was interesting to hear from all three of you about how you're tapped into product. And when I was preparing for this panel, it was like, oh, okay, head of sustainability, and then I'm, the product and marketing officer. And like for our company, we're doing the same thing. It's interesting how you said, it's embedded into the development of your products and services. And that's why sustainability is underneath me, is like, as we look at how we're putting in new processes, new services, new products, new infrastructure in our facilities, having the sustainability team, as part of that, going hand in hand and looking at that is, one of the ways that we're able to meet those challenges responsibly.
Yeah. So I'll just keep piggybacking off of ideas, but, one of the things that I say for Chemours is we shouldn't be talking about my sustainability strategy. We should be talking about making our business strategy sustainable. So, how do we do that in a sector that's at the very beginning of some complex value chains, whether it's automotive or electronics? We need market signals, and I'm taking a peek at some of the questions coming in. But, in the absence of policy that might provide a carrot to make investments in reduced energy or electrification, how do we get market signals that our investments are going to be valued? So that's something that I think this program can help, and that was discussed in one of the opening sessions this morning, that we need to work with each other and talk about, if you value low product carbon footprints in materials that my company sells, how can we work together to make sure that our investments in reducing that carbon footprint are supported by your demand signal, right? So there's even industrial symbiosis. Isn't that a kind of cool, catchy term? One man's trash is another man's treasure. Why don't we co-locate so that byproducts can become someone else's raw material, or we share water? So, those are the kind of things that I think I'll take a spin on a challenge and say it's an opportunity. But it is, without the data and the help in making some of those decisions, it's hard to make that financial case in some of the climate that we're in right now with macroeconomic challenges.
I'm going to twist a little bit because I think we all know that there's financial challenges and how do you make that case for projects because we're all after the same dollars. So one of the challenges I'm facing now is around human behavior because we need the humans in the building to operate the building and to participate in what we're trying to achieve. So there's a lot of education that happens, there's a lot of retraining that happens, there's a lot of new training that happens, but how do you make it stick and how do we ensure that the not only the customers but the coworkers and everyone is participating to get to that end goal. So that's one of the big challenges that I'm working through now. And then if I look to the future, the real struggle is expansion and carbon footprint decrease. So how do you grow your business while still maintaining a low to no carbon footprint? So that's a real challenge we're facing, and we have some really hard conversations internally about what that looks like. So while we are growing and our preference is to be in existing buildings so we don't have to do new builds and think about the LCAs and the low to no carbon or emissions, embodied carbon product, you're still going to have emissions. So how do you reconcile that with business growth? So that is a future conversation that is starting now and will continue, and it's a real challenge.
I'll take another crack at just this energy problem. We have a lot of new infrastructure coming online. We have increased demand. We need to make every electron count. And so okay, that's a problem. That's not, I don't know that addresses the question. But then when I look at what do you need to do that? What's the infrastructure needed to do that? The hardware piece, companies, we're one of them, investing significantly in manufacturing footprint to keep up with demand. But the biggest challenge that I see is we're not digitally ready for this, to take advantage of every electron and use every electron efficiently. So how do you get everything from the grid to buildings to manufacturing operating as efficiently as possible, and then also providing the flexibility so that as we better learn the load profile of an AI data center, is there an opportunity to be smarter? So smart and efficient, but all of that requires this digital readiness that we need to do a lot of work to get to where it needs to be.
And so you touched on a little bit the most popular questions so far. I'm talking about the tension or an apparent tension between AI and data and its use of energy and water. So I'm curious, you've kind of touched on the ways that you would see deploying information, Stacy, but from your other perspectives, how are you approaching this apparent tension?
Yeah, I'm looking at that. I think you're alluding to, we're getting some of the questions up here, and one of them is talking about, how do you balance, AI, right, and all that coming in, and with your sustainability, goals. That's obviously a challenge. I think they go hand in hand, actually, because, with the challenge or the opportunity, right, it opens the door to innovation. So we're seeing, alternative water, water or cooling solutions. We're seeing alternative power generation solutions. So that's great to see that innovation, which will make, hopefully things more efficient, even though we're deploying more and more compute power. I also think that we can benefit from AI, right? So Stacy, you were talking about data. Data is key right now, right? Your AI strategy is only as good as the data that you're feeding it for the learning power. And so, utilizing the technology that's driving the demand so that you can make more efficient decisions, make more sustainable decisions, just kind of helps balance out the impact of that technology on your sustainability. I think, the other thing is that everybody has an eye for this now. We all talked about how we're integrated with the products and services and looking at it, so as we are upgrading some of the infrastructure that we have, right, we're not just replacing like for like, but we have our team looking at, what is the most energy efficient component that we can put here, and is there any rebates available that offset the additional cost for that equipment? And so making those better decisions. So I actually, think that it balances very well, that there's some benefits to this new technology that can allow us to advance our goals, even while supporting the increase in demand because of them.
Yeah, I'll say Chemours thinks about the growth in artificial intelligence and particularly next generation computing as a business opportunity, right? So, we want to use generative AI in making better decisions and running our manufacturing facilities, but we believe that we can bring innovation in chemistry to solve some of the challenges with that kind of growth. If you saw NVIDIA's announcement about, their new rack design, those GPUs could pull as much as a megawatt per rack. So, and in order to perform at their peak ability, they're going to need to be cooled in a different way because air cooling, conventional cooling won't work. So Chemours has innovated a new heat transfer fluid that can be used both in two-phase immersion cooling or direct to chip. So that's us hearing the need and saying we can bring chemistry to bear and innovation to bear to make an impact there. We're talking potentially eliminating the usage of water, reducing by 90% energy consumption for cooling as compared to air cooling, and they use a lot of land. We are thinking with this new infrastructure and new technology for heat transfer, you can reduce your footprint by 60%. So it's a win-win-win. And I think those are the kind of things that we have to shift our thinking a little bit and say, where there's a challenge, how do we innovate? How do we bring different materials to bear? How do we work across our value chains to make sure we can get all the benefits from something like artificial intelligence and mitigate any of the negative impacts? And we can do that through innovation.
I can add to that that was a top down. So from a bottom up, one of the things IKEA is doing is recognizing that we are using data and how do we participate in being more responsible about that. So this month we're doing a carbon cup challenge where we're asking all employees to actually look at their data usage through SharePoint, Teams, all your Microsoft suites and emails, personal and professional, to see what you can get rid of and explain why that's important to not hold on to that stuff. What kind of photos can you dump? How can you clean up your SharePoints? So we don't have results yet, but it was a really great time for us to educate people about here's how keeping these things impacts data consumption and why it's important. So we're trying to do a bottom-up approach to AI and data. That's awesome.
I guess the only thing I would add to the insights here is that I think we're still really early here. And we're on the beginning piece of a huge, huge hill of growth. And I mean, people are just kind of still testing out what can AI do? What does this look like? So similar to a lot of other paradigms that we have, I think we're going to hit a place where, okay, now we kind of know what we're doing, just the capability. Now let's do it more efficiently. And so again, I'm going to come back to the data becomes so important. And I think there are other people within our ecosystem very encouraged by partners that I talk to in the computing and IT space that are looking at, number one, quantifying what is the impact of the AI usage that you as a person or you as an organization are generating. How can you become more efficient to achieve the same end? And then once you have the data and you have the transparency, making better choices. But you can't do that until you have the information. So I think it's early days. I don't know that reconciliation, we're at a point where we can do that reconciliation or that we even understand what it is at this point. But I'm encouraged by the work happening, again, throughout the ecosystem to bring that transparency to bear, that as we understand the capabilities, we take that same journey about being more efficient, responsible.
Thanks. So I would say keep the questions coming. That last question came from you all. We'll go through a couple more, just to give folks a chance to answer things or to ask questions. And then in order to support my seatmate, I'm going to switch the order to allow you to build up. So Amber, you talked about this the most, I think, so far, at least directly. But to start with you, Stacy, thinking about how you integrate the goals about energy efficiency and sustainability into the core business and financial practices rather than, I think, as you said, coming from the outside. So how do you get it to be part of the center of what your organization does?
I mean, I think mentioned it. It's what we're doing around energy efficiency. It makes financial sense. It makes operational sense. So it's not how do you have sustainable operations, but how do you have reliable, effective operations that can move sustainably. So the energy efficiency improvements, the payback period speaks for itself. We installed a microgrid at one of our facilities because they were going offline at least once a week. That's dollars out the door. That's product in a highly, in an industry with high demand that wasn't getting shipped out the door. And you guys know when you have a disruption to your production, even when the power goes right back on, you're not, you don't pick right back up where you left off. There's ramp up time. So having that reliable power supply was a driver for installing a microgrid. Okay, it's powered by solar power. Great, 2 birds, 1 stone. We see a lot of that intersection. And so quite honestly, makes my job really, really easy to be able to go in and say, hey, we can help kind of merge our sustainability and our financial and operational targets together. The businesses are already doing this. And the businesses, when it's integrated in product, it's integrated in finance, it's integrated in operation. I think where we have some of the challenges are on some of these bigger lifts, more of the innovation side, the large-scale electrification, integration of heat pumps, those types of things where, again, I think the programs like we see here today are helping to provide those demonstration projects, to provide the best practices and get those types of innovation to scale so that everybody can take advantage of them with the same economic return and that same common sense operational return.
Same. And a distinction I'll make is also that IKEA's, all of the countries have a CEO, and each CEO is also the CSO. So it's a dual title role. But that doesn't mean the CFO is a CSO. So there is that distinction to make. And sustainability is built into everything we do. As I said, it's in the product design, it's in the way we talk, it's one of our core values. But that doesn't mean that just because a project lowers emissions, it's going to get approved. So there are discussions that have to be had, even if it is integrated into the business, about why should I approve this project over this other project that's going to have a shorter ROI, a shorter timeline on ROI. So what I'm working toward is trying to make the bigger case for, sure, maybe it has a longer ROI, but here's the tons of carbon associated with that, or here are the humans that are impacted by that, by us. Here's the efficiencies we can gain in operations if we do that. So trying to expand, not just dollars, but adding more data points about why the project is viable. In a company that already sees sustainability as valuable, how do we make it even more valuable? So those are some of the things that we're working on internally to figure out how to navigate.
And I'll just keep building on that, because what is the return on a sustainability investment is like the question of the day, right? And I think we have to talk about value differently. So green premium, everybody wants the green premium, but I don't really believe that exists. And if it does exist, it's for a short time period, right? So how do we talk about value in gaining market share? Because your products meet your customer's demand or provide value to your customer in a different way, easier to use, less energy intensive in mixing. Like those are some things that we should be talking about. What's the value of privilege to operate, of complex manufacturing sites in communities where there's questions about process emissions, right? So, those are sort of the conversations that we need to have with our C-suite, with our CFOs, because it's a different calculation, but it's important for the long run. And you might also have noticed in our video that our assets are long-lived, another word for old. So, how do we make the best decisions about replacing those assets at the end of their useful life, because they need to run for another 70 years. So my colleague Catherine Collison, our decarbonization leader, reminds me that one of our boilers came off a World War II ship. So, how are we investing in the next generation boiler for 70 years sitting here in 2025? So those are the kind of things that we're integrated, but it's a challenge to make the right decisions because there's competition for capital. And we just have to get better at talking about how we value sustainability.
I won't take too long because it's more of the same, I think. But, how we integrate everything is, I say it's always data and dollars, right? You've got to make the business case. You've got to have the data points. You've got to have the financial backing around it. It all comes down to the business case and how you're, proving out that it's going to, these dollars that you're spending are going to achieve the goals that you've set out for. So.
We've got a few minutes left, and I wanted you to maybe think a little bit about the direction that you see your goals going and the next challenge that you have. Is there a way that you would characterize kind of what next steps are in front of you and the organizations that you lead?
Yeah, I would say for Centersquare, we're kind of in a unique position right now because we're a company that's been around for a while, but we're only a year old. So we merged together two very large data center operators and rebranded last year. So while we have an existing company and history and facilities, we are kind of acting like a new company. And so we're kind of having to restart all of our actions again and looking at the new combined portfolio. So we're doing a lot of things like we're in the middle of our emissions reduction planning, our energy roadmap, getting all the data in the same format, the same set, into the same tool so we could look at the portfolio holistically and make those educated decisions. So I think for us right now and into the next 5 years, it's now that our business has changed a little bit, is do we need to change the plans that we had in place? Are these still the right plans? What do we need to do differently to meet those goals? So we did reset our goals as the combined portfolio in the past year, and so now I think we're just we're kind of in a unique situation that we're almost having to, I don't want to say start over, but we're just kind of reevaluating that the plans that we had individually as the two companies, are they still the right plans now that we're a combined company?
And I think that's natural. We're mid-decade in a pretty critical decade here. A lot of sustainability goals for the near term are 2030, right? So we're doing the same. Just I think it's important that you continue to reflect on where does your business have a material impact and what has a material impact on your business. I'll say what I'm excited about is we're thinking about circular economy in a not necessarily a different way, but what does it mean to Chemours? Waste is the ultimate inefficiency in an operating facility. So how do we make sure that we're reusing materials at our site so that we don't have to deal with waste? How are we working with our customers to make sure what we design can be recycled? I think we talked about that already. But also energy. Circular economy is about minimizing your consumption, minimizing your impact on the environment. So how do we integrate our decisions around renewable energy or advanced nuclear into, a circular economy profile, a circular economy vision? So we're having some really interesting conversations with our businesses because it's not just about what is recycled. There's so much more to that, the durability of our products and what value that can bring to our customers. So I'm excited where some of those conversations will take us, and we'll see what the goals look like that come out of that.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. Buildings are the machine in which we're running and trying to get efficiencies and drive it down and make that happen. But there is the circular economy, and buildings can be circular, and they can participate in that. And how are you going to reuse materials or look at materials that are being deconstructed and bring them into a new construct? So there's a building circular economy, and then from the retail side, there is also the circular economy being built. And we've been just came from a conference for Circularity 2025, where that's all they talk about is circularity. And the chemical composition, it was a big topic at that conference about how do we start looking at the molecular level to start changing the materials that we're using and thinking about the next life of that from a molecular level, which I thought was fascinating, especially as a producer of furniture. Like how we can put the things together and give you the instructions to do it, but how do we get that thing to be the next thing and keep it at landfill and changing the way we're thinking about it so it's not take, make, waste and making it more circular. I think it's a really exciting time to start reevaluating, reimagining how we use things, create things, and build things. It's really a really cool time, and the partnerships that could be realigned or reestablished that might not have existed 10 years ago. If we look back 10 years, we weren't here. So if we look in another 10 years, that's really exciting to see where we're going to go and what that looks like. So I'm really excited for the future of the chemicals, the wood, the composites, and all of the things moving forward to have a different landscape in the next 10 years.
And I'll agree with everything that everybody said and come back to this energy piece. And the way that I'm looking at my job is how do we respond on the demand side of the equation? Developing digital solutions that allow for load load response and demand flexibility within the building, within the manufacturing. And I think one thing that we haven't touched on, because we talk in this space a lot about a new build and expansion and greenfield, but a lot of the infrastructure that needs to be modernized is the infrastructure that's existing right now. And so how do we have these solutions developed and implemented in a way that is feasible and relevant for existing building stock and existing factors? And we had a nice long conversation about this at the table, is how, the new build is really exciting, the existing building stock and the efficiency gains there, and the technology modernization needed there is great, but it's also a lot harder to go into an existing building that's been there for, with the boiler that's coming off the World War II. How do you go in there and implement this new technology? The other piece of that is, I think what's really exciting is we're looking at the market mechanisms that will drive. So the technology is critical, but also the demand signals and the things that utilities are coming up with to be able to incentivize organizations to take advantage of that, I think is really important. So we're looking at market, we're looking at technology, and we're looking at how to take those two things and apply them against a very diverse set of infrastructure, everything from the new exciting modern, but also how can we develop that infrastructure in a way, or that technology in a way that applies to modernization of existing infrastructure.
Thanks for your partnership. Thanks for your time, and thanks for sharing the stories of your success. Round of applause for our panel.
Thank you very much.
I'm not going to be here long enough for them to exit. So thank you again, panel. It was really interesting to hear you. I don't know if you all knew, but I knew they were seeing the questions you were asking, and I noticed they were skillfully trying to address questions you guys were raising on the app. So that was all happening behind the scenes. So well done, panel. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And I just thought the topics raised were really timely, right? Lots of questions around infrastructure, circularity, AI, data centers, very interesting. So thank you again for being here. It's now time, but don't get up yet, just a couple quick things. We have about a 15-minute break. The next sessions start at 11:30. We've learned the hard way, and because of the feedback you've given us, to give you more time to network a little bit in the hallways and to have a cup of coffee before you get to your next session, so please take advantage of that. And then I do want to, yes, the slide up is to just share a couple of things that we're excited about at the summit. We're excited about all the sessions, but just a couple quick things. Not only are the sessions interactive, we've talked about that before. One of the most popular things at the summit is an Ask an Expert session. We have experts from the national labs here to sort of help address questions you're having across a whole variety of topics and technology. So please take advantage of that. There's a reception tonight. Please plan to come. And then tomorrow is also a crowd favorite, and that is we've asked three folks from three different national labs to join us. Caroline's going to moderate that session, and we are excited because they're going to respond, and you get to ask them questions, and then you're going to sort of help determine how useful the answers were to you. So it's a really exciting time for them, and the charge we've given them is to come to the stage and talk about the 2 or 3 things that they are most excited about from the National Labs perspective. We've asked them to be very focused in that, and that's always a great session. So that is tomorrow at 9 a.m. Please don't be late. And then I am just going to leave you with the hope that you enjoyed the rest of the summit. I'm looking forward to meeting you, as many of you as possible. Enjoy your time here, interact, be part of the sessions you're in. And with that, we are adjourned, and next sessions are at 11:30. Thank you very much.